firstly, the teenage crisis. Can you have a chat with the person next to you very briefly and just ask them, what were you like when you were a teenager? And have them share with you, what were they like? Just go for it, give me 30 seconds, go for it. What were you like as a teenager? What were you like, really? Give them the truth. How were you as a teenager? What were you like? Don't hold back now, give them the real deal. What were you like as a teenager? Does anybody want to share with us? Give us an honest answer. How were you as a teenager? Anybody? What were you like? A couple of volunteers. Tell us what were you like as a teenager. Anybody? Don't be shy now. Some interaction. Come on, how were you as a teenager? Yeah.
I think I was a well-behaved teenager.
Yeah.
I was well behaved. I did a few things that I lied to my parents more than once and went to places that they said I shouldn't go, but thankfully I was okay.
Praise God.
Yeah.
You came through.
Yeah, I came through.
Praise God, praise God. One more, thank you. Give her a hand, please. Thank you. So a hand there, man. And share.
Well, as a teenager, you go through many different levels in your time. But there was one stage when I became very selfish, and also a bit lazy as well. But also at the same time, in my life, I was a little bit thinking about the world and the problem, you know. So I think I had different things going on with myself.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that one. Give her a round of applause, please. Thank you. So if we're honest with ourselves, we can all look back to a time when we were teenagers and life wasn't smooth necessarily. There were ups and there were downs, there were challenges, there were confusion, there were identity challenges, all kinds of confidence issues. Things weren't easy, and things haven't changed, guys. The reality is that things that haven't changed for our young people today. There are still challenges. When we talk about crisis in particular, my brother shared earlier about the knife crime crisis. We do a conference around youth violence, and we know that number one, knife crime in Birmingham is on the increase. Gun crime is actually going down slowly, but knife crime is the new thing now. It's on the increase all across the UK. It's a big deal, big deal. I work with a local university, and this week I was chatting to the vice principal, and we were talking about the attainment gap between white students and black students. And historically, our conversation has been that black Afro-Caribbean students, there's a 30% gap roughly between the attainment of white and black Afro-Caribbean. This week we sat down analysing this year's data, and it's changed. Black African students now have the biggest gap between the white and the black. There's a shift happening. Whereas one point it was, the African students, especially the Nigerian students, were known for coming and being academic and being top grades and achieving highly. But something is shifting now in society that is we're seeing a lot more African young men involved in gang crime and knife crime violence than we've ever seen before. There's a shift happening. There's a crisis. And so, very briefly, what are three things that I think we can do to, and we'll come to questions, that we can do to respond to these, or why is there a crisis? Number one is this, is a lack of understanding. There's a lack of understanding between the two cultures in existence. So here's what happens. A parent will say to me, my son, he just doesn't listen to me. He's giving me so much trouble. He won't hear me. He's doing what he wants to do. He's uncontrollable. I'm pulling out my hair in frustration, they'll say. And here's what's happening for real. Mom or dad has come from, let's say, an African background, African culture, and they're operating inside a different society, but with the same mindset of back home. So their values, their attitude, their worldview, how you are supposed to behave is how I was taught to behave. And there's this lack of understanding. There's a culture clash between how I was raised and how these young children are living in today's society. There's a clash. You gotta see, as serious as this is, that young people are living in a jungle out there, literally a jungle out there, with all kinds of confusion and identity crisis and all kinds of things that enemy is doing right now, and the parents are living in a version of a countryside, literally. And in the home there's a certain point scoring system. At home we reward our kids for washing the car or for behaving themselves. They get pocket money or a reward. When they're in school today in society, they get a reward or acknowledgement for he punched him in the face, or he did this to that girl, or he stole that, he robbed that, he said this to the teacher. And so it's a different point scoring system. And what happens is young man outside in school is trying to earn stripes, trying to fit in, trying to to be recognized, and mom at home is saying this and saying that, and actually what happens is the parents become irrelevant. Parents become irrelevant because they're not willing to understand and engage with and understand the society and the culture that their children are living in. They're insistent and dependent upon their child to behave and conform to how they think it should be. This is how it should be. This is how I know it to be. Well, actually, what you're saying might be true to you and true in a sense, but according to how that young man or woman or young lady is living, that is not relevant. I can't survive in this jungle based on how you were raised. I can't survive in this reality, this harsh reality based on your way of viewing the world. So what do? Do you stay in your trenches and say, well, my way or the highway? Or do you attempt to engage with, not conform to, but engage with and understand the culture? Understand the lingo? Understand social media? Understand the YouTube videos that they're watching? Understand how their teachers are relating to them and their peers and the families of your friends, of your son's friends, etc. Do you attempt to engage, or do you retreat back into your tradition and your culture? If we do that, we'll lose them. The second thing is the lack of love. The two are linked. So lack of love, there's three types of love. Number one, love is I love you if. I love you if you do as I tell you to do. Or I love you if you clean the car. Or I love you if you come to church. I love you if. And so many times, inadvertently, we love our children if they behave the way we want them to behave. The second if is I love you because. Thank you, son. I love you because you carried my bag for me. Or thank you, son. I love you because you did as I asked you to do. I love you because there was an exchange, a transaction. You did this and now I love you. I love you because. And so our kids feel this. They see, they know that if I behave a certain way, then I might get a reward. But if I don't, and they feel this. They feel it. But the love they need is a love regardless. You see, love regardless says that there's nothing you can do that can stop me from loving you. There's nothing you can say, no way you can behave, nothing about your character or personality that will ever stop me from loving you. And our children need to feel love regardless. And if you do not show them love regardless, then their friends outside on the road will show them love regardless of how they look, of how they carry themselves. They will gladly show them love regardless. And there's a thing now called county lines. I don't heard of county lines. You ever heard of county lines? A couple of hands. So let me give you an example of the crisis. Right now there are young men and women being recruited and they're disappearing from their families, from their schools. Where's your son? I don't know where he is. And they'll come back a week or 2 weeks later. He's been in a crack house in another part of the UK. Someone's given him some drugs. He's now operating as a drug dealer in a crack house somewhere in a seaside town. And he's now selling drugs. And he comes back and he's got new trainers and he's got some money in his pocket because they call it county lines. They're crossing county lines to now, and so many young people are doing it. An unprecedented amount are doing it. And you say, well, it's the gang members forcing them. No, it's not the gang members forcing them. At one point it was. The gang members saying, yo, come on, I'm recruiting you. No, now they're saying, use me. I want to go, I want to do it. And these are boys who have got both their parents in their home. Some of them are even Christian families and they're carrying knives. We need to show them love regardless. The third is a lack of a positive role model. One of the reasons why there's a crisis is a lack of a positive role model. When I turned my life around, 19 years old, by the grace of God, it was an old Irish white man in the middle of Handsworth called John Holcroft, who saw me and believed in me, saw past my behavior and everything else, said, Errol, you can make it. Errol, I believe in you. And I said, why do you believe in me? No one else does, John, his name was. He said, Errol, you can do it. Come on, you can make it. And no matter how bad I was, he just said, Errol, come on. And he took me to places in the city council, to meetings where in high places, and showed me things I'd never otherwise seen. And his belief in me, that one significant other, his belief in me caused me to begin to change how I saw the world. That one significant other. We all need one significant other. We all need to be that one significant other that believes in someone being inspired by their behavior, their attitude, their mindset, how they show up in the world, their character, their conduct. I want to challenge us today to be that one significant other. And we, as Christians, we've got to ask ourselves, is our Christianity, is our version of Christianity setting a good example for our children? Do they look at us and are they inspired by our Christian life? Are they inspired by how we seek and serve God? Do they look and go, wow, I want to be like my mom, I want to be like my dad? Do they? Do they see the testimonies and the power of God working through our life in a way that inspires them to run after God as well? They need to see us really living for Jesus. Not compromising, but bearing fruit of the Spirit. Amen? Amen. And so, before questions, couple of things. What must we do? Actions. We have to be willing to engage with and understand the culture. We have to be willing to engage with and understand the culture. Mommy. And there are different ways we can do that, and several, whether it's through engaging with the people in the culture. And culture is essentially language and behavior. So it's engaging with the people in the culture, understanding how they interact, how they communicate. Understanding the lingo. There are certain words that are used, that your young people use today, that they will just talk around you. If you don't understand, they'll talk around you. I couldn't talk around my parents. They understood. They were raised here as well, so they knew if I was saying something, it was in the culture. They knew as well, so it wasn't easy for me to talk around them. But you've got to be willing to say, you know, I'm going to step into this. I'm not going to be blind to this. Number two, you've got to create a loving environment in your home that is more attractive than the one that's been pulling them away outside. When they come into the house, let them know that there's no judgment, there's no condemnation.
My name is Brother Abdul from MFM Coventry. I want to thank God for your life and then the positive things that you actually imparted in us today. Can you please throw more light the environmental influence, both positive and negative on our children? Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah. So last week we took a group of boys to Google in Ireland, in Dublin, to have a tour of the facilities, and we had a couple of young people. So the amazing thing was we had some staff that worked there stand up and speak to the young boys, and they were all Africans, and they were in their early 20s. And as they stood and spoke with confidence about their journey from university to starting in this place, in this company, I could see the boys' eyes open like, wow. There's something about seeing something in your environment that causes you to believe you can do it. And we've got to somehow expose our young men and women intentionally to things that will inspire them, that they want. It's not that we want them to see, but that is, if it's within their grasp. So a young person who's just above their age range, maybe, who can. So we're gonna intentionally ask ourselves, how do I expose my child to men and women who are not so far ahead, but that can help them to pull up. Hopefully, ideally, they're in our church. Ideally, right? They're youth leaders and youth pastors. Ideally, but if it's not the case, then we're gonna go out and we're gonna find them. The second thing is, in the environment today, overwhelmingly, these things are, we're actually like, in this generation, we're half machine and we're half human. This is reality.
Yes.
We're half, they call it artificial intelligence, and half human, right? We completely rely on these things. We search, Google, whatever it is, we're on this thing. Our young people today, they're picking this up and they're looking at absolutely everything. Whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, this or that. And actually, what's conditioning them more is what they're exposed to through these devices. And so we have to be aware. We've got to, as far as we can control what they're looking at, we need to. But we need to at least be checking in on them and look at what they are watching. Please, parents, look at what your children are exposing themselves to on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, and just be aware and have conversation with them about what they are looking at. What does it mean to them? What do they understand by it? Why do they particularly want to watch that? What's drawing you to that? How did you come across that? And get into their thinking and their decision-making process so you can help to steer them in the right way. Don't be blind to it and don't fight over it, or have reason with them. Got to reason with them. So yeah, environment is crucial. Question?
Praise the Lord. What can a parent do if, what can you do if you discover your child is always watching pornography and horror film? How do you deal with such a child?
Yeah. So you've obviously got to deal with the spiritual side of it as well, all right? That's because it's a given. So if anyone's addicted to anything that is, whether it's demonic in any sense, whether it's violent movies, whether it's pornography, then there's a spirit operated. We know, as Christians, we know behind that, there's a spirit behind that. We have to address the spirit behind the thing. But it goes back again to, if they've got a phone, and they're watching stuff, most of the time, people don't understand the dangers of what they're doing, our young people. And so if we can be willing to reason with them, to them it's fun. It sounds sad to say, but it's fun because their friends are doing it, it's made cool, it's popular, and so why not? Everyone else is doing it. So we have to pray about the spirit operating behind it, which is a destiny-killing spirit. And then we have to be able to engage with them. And this is what we don't do. We don't engage in dialogue about what it is they're looking at and why it's important. We slap, we box, we take away the phone and we say, what? We have to talk and give a reason with them about the dangers and the consequences of these different things. So important.
Praise the Lord. I think you nailed it. I want parents to really note this. The first thing is prayer. When your child is addicted to pornography or horror film, most of these things at times they watch it in their room over the night, from night till morning. I think you have really nailed it. The first thing is you have to pray and address that spirit. There's a spirit in that house that is always compelling them. Then the second thing is to engage them. Like you said, thank you very much. I think you nailed it. Well, I want us to note that at times, most of these things are spiritual. Once they are really addicted to it, you need, apart from talking to them, you really need to take it up spiritually. Pray about it, rebuke that spirit that is behind it. The Lord will help us in Jesus' name.
Amen. There's a question over there.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you a question about this culture. We were raised back home, and our culture is quite different from what we see here. And the way our children look at us as being too harsh, or you mentioned it, you nailed it. But I want to ask you, how can we blend properly into accepting this culture of the thing? Because for me, sometimes I find it difficult. Just like the fact I work in this kind of environment and I know and I can say, but when I get home, sometimes I find it very tough to say, you just don't have to be like this. You have to think back home. Sometimes I feel like, let me take you back to my country and see what we do there. My country is quite different from, you know what I mean? Because I want my children to be very respectful, all those kind of things I would do back home. I'm a Nigerian, and I'm a Yoruba person. We value this culture, this respect of it. And apart from that, dressing anyhow is not part of me. But I just, just maybe you can help me.
I think the point you made about going back to Nigeria is a good one. Seriously is. I went to Ghana, I've been to Ghana several times, and to Nigeria, and my life was changed when I was fully immersed in the African context. And it's not appreciated here in this country, because how we're raised in this country is that Africa is bad, Africa is poor, Africa is poverty. From primary school, when we were here, we would see images on TV. We're told about, flies and swatting Ethiopians who were starving, and we were sold a message that you never wanted anything to do with Africa. And so there's a conditioning that's happened here. And so there's a huge disconnect of understanding. So we're going to find a way to almost inoculate them with an understanding of their African heritage and history in a way that's palatable. So church is a great place for that, but church often is just like it's just a big bright light of like, here's Nigeria, so but we have to think about it. You're right, we shouldn't throw away the values and the culture. We're going to be strategic about knowing our child, for our particular child, what's the best way for me to introduce him to our history and to our culture and to why. The why is important, the why we behave and think and dress the way we do. And if that means going back home to do that, well, there has to be some discussion. When I was young, when I was young, we had a thing called Saturday school. And so we lived in inner city Bergen, Handsworth. If you imagine then, like my parents were first generation, and there was so much racism that was thrown at them. The family lived in one house, very different environment that it is now. And so they started a thing called Saturday school, the black parents did. And every Saturday we'd come together and they would teach us about Africa. And we'd read African stories and Jamaican stories. We'd hear about Marcus Garvey and these different African and black leaders. And they were teaching us about our culture from a young age in Saturday school. And that's how we understood a bit about who we were and why it was important to be confident and black. You with me? In a hostile society. And so some of that kind of education and schooling is needed, I think, still in African community today. It will help. All right, God bless you. Any other questions? Questions?
Mine is not a question, it's a contribution.
Okay, sure.
From my own experience, I think as parents we have to be firm on the things that are not good, but we shouldn't be straight, as you have said, because I left my daughter at the age of 5, and then they came to me at the age of 11. So when she came, the environment I had left her was entirely different, as you said. And when she came over, I was struggling with, going to school and then coming in with different ideas. But with time and with prayers, God has been so good. Hallelujah. I tried taking her phone at the beginning, like when she comes and the things that she was watching wasn't very good. But I was facing resistance from her. But later I realized I need to sit down with her and then tell her what is not good to watch and the things that she can be watching. And I remember it wasn't easy. But later, she herself decided to bring the phone to me at a certain time because she thought it was even disturbing her in her studies. So when we sit down with them and reason with them, I think they come up with so many things and we understand them. And there was one thing that I think she liked doing when they go to school and then she comes back with like a drawing on the hand. So I just got to know that maybe she's interested in tattooing, but she didn't know what is behind the whole thing. So she would tell me, oh, in the art class, I decided to do this. But as a parent, I was thinking that maybe she's getting interest in doing that. And later I explained a lot of things to her. And I said to her, there are certain things you can do. It might not be a sin, but you are classified among a group of people. So she got to understand so many things. So I think as parents, you should sit down with them and be firm. The things that are not right, you should let them know. But we shouldn't be straight on, since there are things that we get so much concern that will not take them to hell, to put it that way. Yes. But we should help them to adjust to the things that will help them, and the things that are sin, that one we should clear. We should be clear about them. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. From here.
What can you do about what can you do about very disrespectful, aggressive teenagers? Because that's the problem that I've got at the moment with my daughter. She's very, very aggressive. She's 16. I cannot reason with her. I cannot speak to her. She's not having it. What as a Christian parent, what can we do?
So, we work with some young people who are in the criminal justice system now, and it's hard work. I'm not going to say it's easy. There's no easy route, you know. And a lot of parents, I know, are going through a lot of different things like this. We have to pray. Obviously, we have to pray, right? We have to pray. I think where possible, we have to try and get to the roots of the issue. So the behavior is oftentimes the leaves on the tree, and we got to understand that everything is a roots. So if they're behaving a certain way, if they're acting a certain way, our challenge is to get on what is at the root of this thing. How did this come in? Where has it come from? What's triggering this? What is it making them feel the way they're feeling? That might mean Christian counseling. It might mean another mentor or friend or person coming into their life to be able to have a conversation with them. But I think it's for us to not take it personal. You know, it's not personal to you. How she feels, how she's behaving, she's manifesting whatever's going on inside of her. It's not personal to you. But if you can get to the root of that with her somehow, or with the help, if you got to get help to do that, then you'll see a completely different person. But it's not permanent, and it's not personal. Amen? All right. Okay, God bless you.